The moment she walked into Sterling and Crest Private Bank, everyone froze. No one could believe a little girl would dare step into this world of polished floors and golden watches. Who was she? She was barely 10, clutching a worn plastic folder to her chest, dressed in faded jeans, a plain yellow t-shirt, and sneakers that had clearly seen better days. Yet somehow she commanded the room. The lobby was designed to make people feel small, tall glass windows, soft lighting, shiny floors, but Alara James didn't flinch. Watches worth a house. Handbags worth a month's salary. The rich sat like kings, expecting admiration. And now all eyes were on a little girl. "I'm here to check my account balance," she said, soft but steady, her words carrying more weight than anyone expected. Leonard Harrow, a man who loved to hear himself talk, lowered his shiny tablet and leaned toward his wife. "Well now," he smirked, "this should be interesting." Some polite chuckles rippled through the room, the kind that says, "We think we're better than you." They had no idea this was the last time they'd laugh at her. Alara didn't move. She stood as still as a tiny oak tree, hands gripping her folder, eyes calm but sharp. Something told everyone she wasn't just any child. Mr. Clifton, the branch manager, approached with a practiced smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sweetheart," he said, the kind of tone adults use when they assume a child doesn't understand, "this counter is for premium clients. Maybe you meant the lobby downstairs." "I'm supposed to be here," Alara replied. "My grandmother said I should come today." Heads turned, a few people whispered. Leonard stood, pretending helpfulness. "And what's Grandma's name?" he asked, voice laced with mock curiosity. "Maybe she works here. Cleaning staff, maybe?" His wife tapped his arm, a soft gasp escaping her lips, but her smile betrayed amusement. Alara lifted her chin slightly, a flicker of resolve in her eyes. "Helena James," she said. "She told me you'd recognize it." Everyone waited. It was just a name, but somehow it felt like the key to a locked door. Mr. Clifton's fingers froze over his keyboard. He typed the name again, eyes widening, posture stiffening. Before a word could escape him, a soft alert chimed. From her glass office, Regional Director Maren Voss emerged. She saw the screen, then looked at Alara. Her expression softened instantly. "Alara," she whispered, "your grandmother told me this day would come." And just like that, the room realized they had been holding their breath for her all along. The moment Regional Director Maren Voss spoke the girl's name, the whole lobby changed. People who were smirking just minutes earlier suddenly sat up straighter, like they'd realized they might have misjudged something important. And they had. Maren walked toward Alara with a look you usually reserve for someone you respect deeply, almost like greeting an old family friend. "I wasn't expecting you this soon," she said softly. "But your grandmother, she always knew her timing." Alara nodded, calm as ever, almost like she had been preparing for this day for a long time. Mr. Clifton, poor man, looked like he'd swallowed a handful of nails. Sweat gathered at his temples while he stared at his screen, still trying to understand whatever secret the system had just revealed. Leonard Harrow, the loudest voice in the room earlier, cleared his throat with an exaggerated, forced confidence. "Excuse me," he said. "Can someone explain what's going on? It's just a child. Maybe the system glitched." A few people nodded weakly, hoping it was a mistake, but it wasn't, and deep down they knew it. Maren turned toward Leonard, polite but with a firmness that could cut glass. "Mr. Harrow," she said evenly, "there is no mistake." She gestured gently toward Alara. "Would you come with me to the executive room? Your grandmother left instructions for this exact moment." Alara nodded again, her quiet confidence surprising everyone. Most kids would have run out crying after being laughed at, but she walked like someone twice her age, carrying something much heavier than a plastic folder. As she followed Maren toward the hallway, the entire lobby fell silent. Even the hum of the air conditioning sounded too loud. People leaned forward, trying not to look curious, but failing miserably. Leonard called out again, irritation rising in his voice. "Look, I think we deserve to know what's going on. This is a private banking floor, and this whole thing feels—" Maren cut him off, gentle but firm. "Mr. Harrow, you and your wife may want to listen more closely before speaking." That line alone shut half the lobby up. Leonard's wife dropped her gaze, suddenly remembering every rude whisper she'd made earlier. Mr. Clifton finally found the courage to step closer. His hands trembled as he spoke. "Ma'am," he whispered, "her grandmother's file, I didn't know. I didn't even know we had clients with that level of—" Maren raised a calm hand to stop him. "It's all right, Clifton, you weren't supposed to know. Helena valued her privacy." She glanced toward the hallway where Alara walked ahead with quiet certainty. "But some things can't stay hidden forever." As they reached the executive room, Ilara paused at the door. She looked back at the lobby. The people who had judged her, doubted her, mocked her. There was no anger in her eyes, just clarity, just purpose, like she already knew she belonged here. Then she stepped inside, and the glass door closed behind her with a soft click. Through the frosted glass, the silhouettes of Marin and Ilara appeared, two figures taking seats at a long conference table meant for the bank's most powerful meetings. And in the lobby, no one dared to say a word, not anymore. Inside the executive meeting room, the atmosphere shifted completely. It was quieter here, calm, almost respectful. The long wooden table stretched across the room, and the soft lighting made the place feel less like a bank office and more like a private study where serious decisions were made. Ilara sat near the center, her small hands resting on her plastic folder. Regional Director Marin Voss took the seat beside her and placed a carefully sealed envelope on the table. Its edges were worn, the handwriting neat and unmistakably personal. "This," Marin said gently, "was left for you by your grandmother. She trusted you more than you realize." Ilara didn't touch the envelope yet. She just looked at it quietly, as if gathering strength from the memory of the woman who wrote it. Marin opened her own folder. "Before we read that," she continued softly, "I want to explain what Mr. Clifton saw on his screen." Outside, the frosted glass, blurred shapes pressed closer. People pretended to check phones or read papers, but their eyes kept drifting toward the door. Curiosity had swallowed the entire lobby. Marin took a slow breath. "Ilara, your grandmother wasn't just a client here." She let that hang for a moment. "She was one of our largest silent investors, and more than that, she owned a significant share of this entire branch." Most kids would have gasped. Ilara didn't. Her face stayed calm, like she had already felt the truth coming. "Grandma worked hard her whole life," she said softly. "She never bragged about anything. She said good people don't need to." Marin smiled at that. She was right. She pulled out another document, an account summary printed on thick official paper. "When Helena passed," Marin continued, "she transferred everything to you, her holdings, her shares, her investments, all prepared legally, quietly, and with great care." Ilara looked at the document but didn't reach for it. Outside, Leonard's voice rose in a muffled burst, demanding answers, insisting that he had a right to know. Marin didn't even blink. "She left more than money," Marin said. Her voice lowered just a bit. "Helena documented every moment she felt mistreated or dismissed in this bank. Every rude comment, every service denied, every unfair judgment, years of it." Ilara's eyes lifted, steady, clear. "Grandma said people show who they really are when they think you're beneath them." Marin nodded slowly. She wasn't wrong. With careful hands, she slid the sealed envelope toward Ilara. "Go ahead," she murmured. She wanted these words to reach you in the right moment. Ilara opened the envelope with quiet care. Inside was a handwritten letter, short but strong enough to fill the room. Her eyes moved across the page. They softened, then steadied, then grew brighter like a small flame catching hold. Whatever Helena wrote wasn't just a goodbye, it was a blessing, a warning, and a mission. When Ilara finished, she folded the letter neatly and placed both hands on top of it. "I know what I need to do," she said, her voice calm but sure. Marin didn't look surprised. "I figured you would." Ilara has heard Helena's final words. Now comes the moment she was prepared for, the moment that will shake the entire bank, especially those who mocked her. When Ilara stepped out of the executive room with Marin at her side, the entire lobby went silent. People who had been whispering behind their hands earlier now sat frozen, waiting, watching, sensing they were witnessing something far bigger than they'd realized. Leonard Harrow jumped to his feet the moment he saw them. He tugged at his expensive jacket, as if straightening fabric could somehow straighten his slipping sense of control. "All right," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Maybe now someone can finally explain what's going on. I don't appreciate being left in the dark." Marin didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her calm carried more strength than Leonard's bluster ever could. "Mr. Harrow," she said evenly, "your behavior earlier didn't exactly qualify you for private updates." A few people looked down at their shoes, guilt creeping into their cheeks. Others nodded, knowing full well she was right, but Leonard wasn't done. His pride wouldn't let him sit quietly. "Look," he said, adjusting his tie again, "we all know this girl, sweet as she is, couldn't possibly have anything to do with this bank's high-level accounts." Ilara stepped forward a little. Her voice was soft, too soft for someone her age to carry so much weight, but somehow it did. "Mr. Harrow," she said gently, "my grandmother trusted me with the things she built. She said people show you who they are when they think you don't matter." That line hit the room like a quiet truth everyone had forgotten. Several older clients lowered their eyes, remembering times they'd seen good people brushed aside or talked down to moments that stayed with them long after the day ended. Marin opened the folder she'd brought out. "To be perfectly clear," she said, "Ilara is not just a client. She is the legal heir to Helena James's holdings. That includes her shares in this bank." A ripple ran through the room. A couple gasps, a few stiffened shoulders, and Leonard finally sank into his chair like someone who just realized the ground under him wasn't as solid as he'd thought. She owns part of this place?" he whispered. "A significant part," Marin replied. "Enough that her voice matters, and enough that how she was treated today matters." Ilara lifted her plastic folder and pulled out a small digital recorder. She held it gently, almost thoughtfully, like it wasn't a threat but a reminder. "My grandmother taught me to pay attention," she said. "She told me not every lesson is written on paper. Some happen right in front of you." Leonard's wife let out a sharp breath, remembering every mocking whisper, every smug smile. Leonard pressed his lips tight, replaying his own words in his head, the tone, the arrogance, the assumptions. But Ilara wasn't angry. She wasn't vengeful. She simply stood there with the quiet, grounded strength of someone who knew who she was and who her grandmother had raised her to be. "Grandma said fairness matters," she said softly, "even if you're the only one standing up for it." The lobby fell into a long, heavy silence. No one dared move. No one dared speak. Then Marin rested a gentle hand on Ilara's shoulder. "Ilara has some decisions to make," she said, "and this bank will honor whatever she chooses." Only then did everyone understand the truth. This small, calm girl now held the one thing that frightened wealthy people far more than losing money: evidence and the courage to use it. Ilara now holds the power and the proof. What will she choose? And how will her grandmother's final words guide her next step? The ending will be the moment this entire lobby never forgets. The bank lobby felt different now, quieter, softer, almost respectful. The same people who had laughed earlier now sat up straighter, suddenly remembering how they should have acted the moment the little girl walked in. Ilara stood in the center, holding her grandmother's letter close. There was no anger on her face, no pride, just a calm certainty far too mature for someone her age. Marin stayed beside her. Not to speak for her, not to shield her, but to stand with her the way someone does when they know a moment matters. "Ilara," Marin said gently, "there's no rush. Whatever you decide, we'll honor it." Ilara nodded, her eyes sweeping across the polished floors, the cold marble counters, and the faces that had judged her long before they knew her name. "My grandmother always said," she began, her voice steady and clear, "that people forget how to be kind when they start thinking money makes them special." A few older clients lowered their eyes, quietly ashamed, quietly listening. "She told me," Ilara continued, "that when I came here one day I'd see who people really were, and that it would help me understand why she worked so hard in silence." Across the room, Leonard Harrow shifted in his seat. His wife wiped her eyes, both of them fully aware now of the part they played. Ilara didn't scold them. She didn't need to. Instead, she opened her plastic folder and placed the small digital recorder on the counter. She didn't press play, she simply set it down, quiet, simple, powerful. "I recorded what happened today," she said, "not to hurt anyone, but to make sure the truth doesn't get forgotten." Her tone wasn't harsh, it was honest. Maybe the most honest thing anyone in that lobby had heard in years. Leonard rose slowly, his voice barely more than a whisper. I'm sorry," he said, the words heavy and genuine. "We were wrong. I was wrong." Ilara gave a small nod, not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement that he meant it. "My grandmother wrote something in her letter," she said softly. "She told me I'd meet people who forgot how to treat others. But she said everyone deserves a chance to learn if they're willing to change." Marin smiled, touched. "Your grandmother was a wise woman." Ilara tucked the letter gently back into her folder. "I'm not taking anyone's job," she said. "I'm not taking anything at all. I just want this bank to treat people fairly. Everyone. No matter what they're wearing or how much money they have." A quiet murmur moved through the lobby, relief, respect, maybe even admiration. Marin nodded proudly. "Then that's exactly what we'll do, starting today." The tension that once filled the room loosened. People breathed easier, though many looked humbled, thoughtful, changed. Ilara turned toward the exit. Warm sunlight poured through the glass doors, lighting her small figure as she walked. Before stepping out, she paused and spoke one last time. Soft, steady, and filled with the kind of wisdom older folks instantly recognize and respect. "My grandmother always said the world doesn't change all at once, but it changes a little every time someone tells the truth." The doors closed behind her, and the wealthy clients of Sterling and Crest were left standing in a quiet lobby, holding on to something money could never buy, a lesson they would remember for the rest of their lives.